Hello and welcome to Dialogue. The historic second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump is underway in the U.S. Senate. Well, the impeachment trial puts Trump and his party back in the spotlight. So what is next for Trump and Trumpism? And could they make a comeback in 2024? To talk about those issues, I'm joined in the studio by Anar Tongan, an independent current affairs commentator, and Professor John Gong from the University of International Business and Economics. Well, in the second part of the show, we will take a look at China's Tianwen-1 mission to Mars. That's our topics. I'm Zhou Yue. The U.S. Senate convened Tuesday afternoon for the first day of former President Donald Trump's impeachment trial. This is the only time in U.S. history that a president is impeached twice. But what do you think of the chances of the second impeachment?
Almost zero. This is, at this point, political theater. The Republicans are hanging their hat on this idea that it's unconstitutional to try a president after he has left office. Of course, these are the same Republicans who said that it would be a rush to trial if they had tried to have the trial before he left.
Yeah.
So you can have it one way or the other. The danger here is that you're, in essence, saying, according to Republicans, that anybody who loses can do anything they want without repercussion, as long as it's not criminal. So they can play any kind of political dirty tricks without fear of repercussions.
So, John, if it is not possible to impeach him, why does it make sense for the Republicans?
Well, Anna used the words political theater. I think that's the whole purpose. Democrats understand that they are short of votes, and only 6 GOP
They
senators.
need a 2/3 majority.
They need 66 votes, and they got 50 Democrat votes and need additional, how many? That's 16, right? 16 votes.
67 total.
Yeah, 67, okay, 67, right. So they need additional 17 votes. But they only got 6 votes at this point. It looks like they only have 6 votes at this point. I think it's kind of a political show. Through this process, all the stuff he has done, the testimonies, the behind the scene information could be put in public for the American people to see. And I think another purpose is the Democrats want the American people to know who is going to vote against it. They want to call out these senators who are actually going to vote against it.
Let me ask you, Anna, why did the 6 Republican senators voted yay for the impeachment trial to begin?
Well, quite frankly, because they were horrified. Remember, this is not something that happened somewhere else, like in Haiti. This actually happened to them. When they played that first 13-minute tape that was put on by the House impeachment masters, you saw senators visibly turning away from the site. They were there. Their staff was there. In many cases, their children and wives were there.
And the other question is, why not more senators from the Republican Party? Only 6 of them.
Because this is
They all felt threatened.
People always are amazed that politicians act like politicians. Politicians are about power. And right now, they've convinced themselves that they better hang together or they will hang separately. Remember, they got a sharp reminder prior to this. Both the Arizona Republican Party and the North Dakota Republican parties censored their representatives for voting against Trump.
If it is a political show, it will show how Republicans will vote. Is it out of conviction or is it out of political convenience?
It's out of political convenience. I mean, I think President Trump, ex-President Trump, still had a lot of influence within the Republican Party. So I think these senators who are actually going to vote against it are concerned they're going to lose the votes back home. So, but if you look at the senators actually voting for it, these are pretty liberal states, right? Susan Collins from Maine, Murkowski from Alaska, Mitt Romney has been a strong opponent of the president for a long time. And also I think Ben Sasse, I'm actually quite surprised. Yeah, he's retiring, and also to some extent, that congressional district in Nebraska is actually quite. I mean, it goes with Biden this time, right?
That has a lot to do with the Trump legacy. You mean that most of the Republican senators will stick to Trumpism, although Trump has left the office, because Trumpism has brought them political scores?
Well, he's still very popular within the Republican Party. A lot of Americans, we have to keep in mind, 70 million people voted for him, right? So over 70 million people. So I think he still has a lot of influence, and these senators will be concerned about losing the support of this base. But this is actually a dead end in my view. It goes to nowhere. I think at the end of the day, even if Trump comes back again and wins the primary within the Republican Party, he is never.
You mean
never,
2024?
2024, yeah. He is never, ever going to win the national race. So I think, the Republican Party has to.
You agree that
John,
Trump
it's not that simple.
will have campaign again?
Look, Trump and Pompeo set this scenario up before they left. What they did is they villainized China. The one thing that we know almost certainly is that in 3.5 years, China will be stronger, the U.S. will be weaker, a lot because of the very policies and things. These, whether it's Trump or Pompeo, they're both going to run on this idea that we told you so.
Okay.
We told you that Biden wasn't capable of containing China. So this is going to be their main political card.
Regardless of what Trump will campaign on, will he campaign again? Considering
no,
the fact
I don't
he
think
has
Trump
suffered
does.
so much harm.
It has really nothing to do with his impeachment trial. I think that he has a myriad of criminal charges facing him and his children.
Right.
And another question is, what kind of slogan or philosophy will the Republican Party bear when they join the next election? Is it still Trumpism, or they have some self-reflection and reckoning that this is not going to work?
It depends on who's going to come out and run. I think there are a couple of quite likely candidates. Nikki Haley has been mentioned a couple of times. Senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, I think is very likely. Tom Cruise and also
Rubio.
Rubio, yeah, Mark Rubio. I mean, all these people are quite likely to be contenders. And so it
They
depends.
will probably carry the flag of Trump.
I think, well, not necessarily. I think some of them probably will do very much. I think probably Tom Cotton, I think, is probably going to be acting very much like in a Trumpian way. But
and also an
depends.
anti-China politician.
That's
All of them.
That's all of them. Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think that's an issue that
Is it freakish anti-China or just normal
China is
anti-China?
vilified. I think it's. I think there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation in the media in the United States regarding China, and there's this broad perception that a lot of the problems in the United States is because of China. So and on top of this pandemic, right? I mean, keep talking about China virus, China pandemic. So this has really poisoned the atmosphere the political atmosphere when it comes to discussing issue about
Okay,
China.
for Democrats, what does it mean for Democrats? Some people say this is indeed a political trial. It is not just a criminal trial. It will bring benefits to Democrats politically.
Yes, I mean, as John pointed out, they're hoping to, basically pin the names of those Republicans who vote for this sham, to say that they can't convict the president because it's too late. When they said they couldn't have a trial because it was too early, they just want to take names. The unfortunate thing that's happening in America is we've just finished an election, highly contentious. Power was handed over, and already people are talking about the midterms. And this is before one real policy of Biden has been passed by Congress.
That's always the undertone of American
It is,
politics.
but it's becoming shorter and shorter term. And what you have is, when you talk about Trumpianism, it's not really his brand. It's just pure populism. Say whatever you have to say to get elected, to get power.
But you have to say populism in America really works well.
Not
politically.
Not only in America, I think across the world, given the very difficult situations, the chaos, the fear, this has engendered hatred, and people have said, I want a simplistic solution. They're electing strongmen who tell them exactly what they want to hear. But later on, they're unable to deliver.
But you don't think the impeachment trial will bring Americans to second thoughts about their system or about...
No. Things are too polarized. There will be some fall off when, assuming that he is convicted of his kind of criminal, if they are called criminal dealings. He's under investigation by the State Attorney General of New York, also the Borough of Manhattan and Brooklyn. The bank that he was with, Deutsche Bank, has pled guilty and promised to do unlimited cooperation All right? This is a very dangerous thing.
And John, the unlikely scenario, if Trump is convicted, impeached, what would happen to America?
I think it's going to be further polarized, further divisive, and politics in Washington is becoming, to some extent, I think it's becoming personal and quite vicious. It's us against them kind of a mentality, and I think
would goad those rioters and Trump supporters to go on the street in a more violent way?
Well, I think there always will be people there. I think one thing we probably underestimate is the militia development in the United States. It's really shocking to me. I think I'm also very surprised to the extent, by the extent of how organized they are, how broadly organized.
The conventional wisdom is they are in the fringe. Will they be the mainstream?
I think they're more than the fringe these days. They're really getting into a lot of part of the mainstream, and I think,
this last attack in the Capitol has alienated a lot of them from the rest, because many Republicans are saying, no, that's not me. I'm not the guy with the gun and the fatigues who's attacking the symbol of America. So you're going to see some fall off.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, John and Anar. In the second part of our program, we'll be talking about China's Marshall mission, the Tianwen. Don't go away, we'll be right back. And now we turn to China's Marshall probe, Tianwen-1, which is China's first independent mission to the Mars, expected to complete its 6-month journey. So what is the latest of Tianwen-1, and what will be China's first Mars mission mean for the deep space exploration? To find out more, I'm joined by Professor Bernard Foy. He is a senior scientist and director of EILEWG Euro-Moon Mars, Dr. Yang Yuguang from the China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation, and Professor Sir Martin Sweeten, Executive Chairman of Surrey Space Center. Let me start with you, Yuguang. Tianwen-1 sent back the first picture already of Mars. It's black and white of the red planet, taken from around 2 million kilometers away from the red planet. What is your impression of the image taken by the Chinese for the first time in history?
Well, you see, this image is taken by a navigation camera on board the Tianwen-1 orbiter. You see that during our trip to the Mars, because you know that we should measure the accurate position and velocity of the vehicle, and then to make the decision of the next step. So the position is very important. The measurements from the ground base or from the ground stations have limited accuracy, so we also need some optical sensors on board the vehicle. The image taken from the orbiter shows us a very good shape of the or good status of the camera, and also prove that we were already in the right position to Mars. So it will be recognized as a good preparation for the final critical so-called Martian orbit insertion.
Yeah, and 2.2 million kilometers away, that sounds like a long distance, but actually it means that the probe is approaching the Mars. We know fire braking is one of the important nodes of the process. What is it, and what kind of risks does it involve?
Well, this is a very dangerous part of the mission. You see that for a spacecraft approaching a large celestial body like the Mars, it will be in a so-called hyperbolic orbit. So when it reaching to the nearest point, it will not stop and then go far away. So if we miss this point, it will never meet with Mars again. At least maybe several years or even several decades later, it can maybe meet again with Mars. So this is our only chance, and it must be done with a very highly autonomous mode, because its distance is far from the Earth, and also the position, the delta V, and also the time of this orbit insertion must be very accurate. So that's the difficulty.
And Bernard, I know that Tianwen-1 will make the first attempt to complete 3 steps in one swoop. That is circumnavigation, landing, and roving on the Mars. Why it hasn't been accomplished before in such a fashion?
Yes, so thank you. So welcome first to Mars orbit, where we have a number of probes, including our ESA probes, Mars Express, and Trace Gas Orbiter, waiting eagerly for Tianwen to join us. And so this first phase, critical is Mars orbit insertion that we should not miss. But after you have this phase of circumnavigation that allows to do science and make measurements from Mars orbit. And then clearly this will provide a lot of data for scientific use, but also for establishing presence in orbit. And later there will be other phase, which will be landing, which is another set of challenges. But we do that here in the case of Tianwen, step by step, in order to secure first orbital success, then landing, and then roving and exploring the Martian planet. So this shows, okay, big advance in technology and good control, not only in the technology of spacecraft, but also the maneuvers, also the ground support, all the logistics that China has on Earth to command. But also there is a big challenge of autonomy, like for instance the orbit insertion is on the other side of Mars, so it has to be done all automatically, and a lot of maneuvers will be done using the intelligent system on board.
And Yuguang, as Bernard just mentioned, technology-wise, what is the challenge for the Chinese engineers? And have they made good preparations if anything goes wrong, if it is all automatic?
You know that every other countries have already been there, but usually the first mission, such as US and the Soviet Union, the first mission will be a flyby or an orbiter mission. So they do this also, as Bernard have mentioned, step by step. But this time, because you see that China is still a developing country, so saving the cost is one of the major concerns of our decision makers. So this time we combine the orbiter and the lander rover missions 3 together, so it will save a lot of money. But on the other hand, also there are many challenges. So this is the reason we do not go deep into the atmosphere of Mars directly, but we just go into the circum-Martian orbit, and then after many operations, such as collecting the data necessary for the landing, and then it can be prepared for the landing. So it is also, we can recognize the orbiting as the preparation work of the landing entry and the landing procedure. Of course, indeed, the entry, descending, and landing will be the greatest challenge and the most difficult part of this mission.
Yeah, considering the fact that the success rate of Mars probe landing there is not that high, it's less than 50%. And Bernard, we know that China is not alone there. On Tuesday, United Arab Emirates Hope probe reached the red planet, and NASA's Perseverance will probably make a landing attempt in the area of Mars where scientists believe that microbial life might have existed. So what do you make of the convergence of efforts from different nations to land and orbit the Mars at this moment?
Yes, so Mars is becoming a robotic village. And we have also our 2 probes from ESA, Mars Express, and we have the Trace Gas Orbiter in orbit. And we are looking for HOPE results that will extend, for instance, some of the study of the upper atmosphere of Mars, like we have studied. And we have this Mars rover 2020 Perseverance that is due to arrive on the 18th of February. Also in Europe, in 2 years, we are preparing the launch of a mission to search for life in situ. And there will be also very important steps to learn from the surface of Mars what was the history of water, what was its habitability, can we still find signs of life there, which from the past are still present now. And so we are looking at trying to measure that in situ. And then we will have a period with international collaboration where we try to return some of the samples that will be prepared both by the Perseverance rover, but also by Tianwen. And in the future, we hope to have some Mars sample return that we could analyze on Earth to search for life, but also to decipher the history of the past of Mars. So there is a mixture of competition. Everybody wants to develop some of the technology, but also we have a strong scientific cooperation. We exchange data. We have a number of European scientists involved in both missions, building on our heritage. And also we complement each other, and so we help ourselves. So it's a great fit for the engineers, but also the scientists, and also for peaceful cooperation between all of us.
And Yuguang, do you agree with Bernard that actually on the technology side, each country is competing for its own priorities, but on the scientific side, everybody is trying to expand the frontier of human knowledge about the Mars?
I partially agree with Dr. Bernard Foing. You see that on scientific research, of course, we all agree that we have more cooperations. There is almost no competition. But on the other hand, you see that maybe there are competitions in other countries. But for China, you see, we don't compete with other countries. It's millionaires. I have mentioned this many times. You see that the U.S. almost launch a Martian probe every 2 years during every opportunity or every launch window. But China only planned 2 missions. Including this one. This time we have orbiting, landing, and roving together. And the next will be a sample return mission. You see, we only have 2 missions. How can this be defined as a competition? So we don't compete with other countries.
And Bernard, what is Europe doing for Mars, and what kind of research can we perform here on Earth to prepare for those lunar and Martian probes?
Yes, so in Europe, in space, we have launched Mars Express, and it has arrived 16 years ago. Since December 2003, we have been observing Mars and have made amazing discoveries about the water history of Mars, the fact that there are some volcanoes that took place even quite recently, the fact that there is also an ozone layer on Mars, there is some escape of the atmosphere of Mars, and we have even detected subsurface liquid water using our radar. So it was a great mission for scientific discoveries, and this has also helped other missions like data relay, and also to prepare other missions. More recently, we launched a mission called Trace Gas Orbiter, ExoMars, launched in 2016, that has studied in the atmosphere of Mars some special chemistry, and also has discovered some new processes for the loss of the atmosphere of Mars, and has delivered some beautiful high-resolution images in stereo that will help to define where to go next. Now we are preparing also a mission called ExoMars rover 2022. The rover is called Rosalind Franklin, and it has a scientific payload called PASTER that includes a number of instruments that are going to search for signs of life, past or present. So with the cameras, with spectrometer, with a kind of sampled gas factory to analyze very minute amount of organics or even signs of life. And so this will give, for instance, a best way, because also we are going to search for life in 2 meters in depth at the place where living organism can survive the very hard radiation on Mars. In support to this mission, we have also a large community of scientists looking at places on Earth that look like Mars. And we have created this Euromoon Mars platform where we go in the Atacama Desert, or we go in Iceland, or we go to Hawaii, or we can go to Inner Mongolia. You have a very great analog of Mars there I would like to visit. And there we can analyze samples like we would be on Mars, and this helps to prepare for the next big phase, the Mars sample return.
And another guest, Professor Sir Martin Sweeting, is on the line. So, Sir Sweeting, what kind of a science knowledge have we already acquired about the Mars thanks to those probes and orbiters that we have sent?
Well, so far, I mean, Mars is a very difficult planet to reach, and particularly to land safely. So the previous missions have given us a much better picture of Martian weather, for example, but also the profile of the atmosphere, because landing on Mars means that you need to understand what the composition of the atmosphere is so that you can land safely. So the previous missions have given us this picture, additional information on the atmospheric profile, the weather on Mars, and also, of course, understand better the orbital dynamics around Mars so that we can make sure we have precision orbits and hopefully successful landings.
And there are a lot of missions to the Mars already. It has become such a popular topic in travel destinations. Up until now, there have been 44 Mars exploration activities. So people assume that going to the Mars will become routine. We can one day colonize Mars. How far are we from there?
Well, I think we're a little way away from that because, first of all, it's a very long distance. We will have to rely substantially on automation and robotics and AI in order to be able to have safe journeys and to prepare for human exploration. So we're a little way off, but it's not science fiction. I would hope that certainly within the next 1 to 2 decades, we might see the first expeditions to Mars. But this is a big challenge. There's not only the long distance and the duration that you take to get there, you can't get there, turn around and come back very easily. If you're going to stay for more than a day or two, you have to stay for a month. And that means you have to prepare habitats, and it's quite a big challenge. So, 10 to 20 years, I think.
And currently there are probably 6 orbiters around the Mars, that is human orbiters, and now the Emiratis, the Chinese and Americans will send another 3. So what do you expect those missions, especially the Chinese mission, of course, which has 3 missions at once?
Well, it's going to be quite a busy few weeks, I think, as these new spacecraft get settled into the Mars environment. And of course, each of them has a slightly different set of experiments and instrumentation, so we're hopefully going to learn a good deal about that. If China is successful in landing on Mars, then it will be only the second nation to have a successful landing. There have been, of course, a number of attempts, including even a British attempt, which unfortunately crashed. So landing on Mars is very hazardous. So if that is successful, it will be a major achievement. And the instruments on the lander will add to the international body of knowledge on the Martian surface and, of course, the prevailing conditions. As I mentioned, Martian weather is quite complicated.
And those rovers of Americans and Chinese, will they ever meet each other? Will they share data with each other?
Well, I think they might not possibly meet each other physically on the Martian surface because it's a big place. But hopefully there will be sharing of knowledge, because I think international collaboration is really key to success. First of all, in helping make sure that the trajectories, the landing, and everything goes smoothly, and then afterwards to share the information and knowledge so we can get a much more comprehensive picture of what is going on Mars, what went on in the past, and what we might learn so that we can make a better future here on Earth as well.
Thank you so much, Martin, and thank you, Bernard, for sharing your insights.
And fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed for our probes up there. Thank you for watching this edition of Dialogue. I'm Zhou in Beijing. Goodbye.